Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. This is going to be one of my favorite videos, guys. I like making videos when I know I can make you money. And I feel like this is one of those moments where I'm going to make MVPs a ton of money. So pay close attention. Now, we're talking about win totals for the 2024 season. This is called a futures bet. I've done all the other teams. If you want to see them, please go to the playlist or the collection on Patreon. You go to collections, find futures bets. If you're on YouTube, go to the playlist on the homepage, click playlist, and then find 2024 futures bets. We're looking at win totals, and we're on Ole Miss. Now, they have Ole Miss listed at 9.5 wins in the regular season. Remember, this doesn't include your bowl game. So if we go back to 2023, you see them here. They went 11-2, but they won their bowl game. They won 10 wins in the regular season. That means they have to do that again. They have to win 10 if you want to bet the over, or they have to lose 3 games, right? So what's going to happen here? Well, we saw them last year. They beat the brakes off of Mercer, beat Tulane, beat a good Georgia Tech team, lost to Bama like they always do, beat LSU in a shootout, somehow got past Arkansas, although it was lackluster. 2 weeks to prepare, beat Auburn by a touchdown, beat Vandy really handedly, just edged out A&M. Once again, getting blown out by Georgia, can't bridge that gap. Beating ULM handedly, beating Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, did not cover the spread, F them for that. And then beating a hapless Penn State team who, yes, you can win in the Big Ten against all the other teams, but you can't beat Ole Miss, Michigan, Ohio State, right? So it is what it is. So everybody has Ole Miss on their preseason list for a couple of reasons. They have them penciled in into the playoffs. They have them penciled in into greatness, and it's because they have a lot of really good parts coming back next year. If you look, you have Jackson Dart here, 3,300 yards. What's most impressive about Jackson Dart, the USC transfer, is the limited 5 interceptions given the opposition. Like when you go back and look at who he played against and you start looking at Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold, right? You start looking at some of these defenders on these teams and you go, yo, he was throwing against Lassiter. He was throwing against like really good players and still not getting picked off. So that's pretty impressive in itself. He's really coming to his own. He's really playing well. Backup quarterbacks don't really matter. Spencer Sanders was irrelevant. And then Walker Howard is a young, really good Louisiana kid who transferred over last year. He's going to be the backup this year. I'll talk about it when I get to the depth chart, okay? Quinshaw Judkins, back-to-back years. He had a bit of a drop-off, and it was really his yards per carry. He was struggling with vision. They say he was a prima donna in the locker room. You know, you get all the negative stories about a player once he transfers. But what's not prima donna is that man scored 15 rushing touchdowns. Now, Ulysses Bentley, the fourth, has always been a running back I admire completely. I watched him rush for over 900 yards while at SMU 2 years ago. So when he transferred in 2 years ago, I was a little bummed out he wasn't getting any playing time. He was injured, though. And the running back room's always stacked at Ole Miss. Matt Jones never really moved me. Jackson Dart can actually run, and he is a threat to run in the red zone. That's why he has 8 touchdowns over there. More rushing touchdowns than Bentley last year. Jam Griffin, he left. He went back to Oregon State, so he's not there anymore. None of this matters. The running back room's loaded. We'll talk about it. Wide receiver room, I put them in my latest video. If you haven't seen it, I have a live stream on YouTube. Instead of clicking on the videos tab, click on the live tab, and you will find a 3.5-hour episode where I talk about every wide receiver room in America, and I rank them all. And while I was ranking them, I put Ole Miss number 2. And I'm torn. I put them number 2 behind Oregon. I'm torn because I feel like they could be number 1. They should be number 1. Just looking at them talent-wise, they're loaded, and we'll talk about it. Trey Harris is coming back, absolute stud, NFL guy. Initially was at La Tech, dominating him and some other guy named Smoke Harris. These two were killing it at La Tech, but Trey Harris jumped ship, transferred last year. And he showed up and proved to be the alpha male. It's important you understand how big of a deal it is that Trey Harris showed out last year. When you look at a guy like Zachary Franklin transferring in from UTSA, 90 receptions, 100 receptions, all these amazing numbers while at UTSA. This was supposed to be the star receiver when they transferred in, and one guy carried it all. One guy looked the part. and it was Trey Harris, okay? Dayton Wade, he's gone, but this was a very senior guy who was teaching everybody else how to be professionals, and he was great, and they're going to miss him, but they found a guy in Beanie Wells, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Jordan Watkins, he's a slot receiver, originally used to be at Louisville, has always been good, and he finally came into his own. Ole Miss is the only team in the SEC to have 3 wide receivers over 700 yards. So they had a very complete wide receiver room. And Jackson Dart, that tells me he's doing his progression reads. He doesn't have a predetermined person he's throwing it to. He will just rotate whoever's open and get them the ball. That's impressive in itself. Caden Pryor scoring. I love Caden Pryor scoring. Coming in, he transferred in from Memphis. I can remember when he hit the portal, everybody was like, he's not that big of a transfer. He's not that big of a deal. I turned on the tape. I said, yo, that guy's nice. And you guys keep talking about Michael Trigg just because he came from USC. He came from USC with your quarterback, right? He came with Jackson Dart. So everybody was talking, oh, man, apparently Michael Trigg's got character issues, and now he's at Baylor. So that's a whole nother issue. Caden Lee. Another slot receiver, but he was a freshman last year. Didn't get much playing time. Scary, bro. Scary good. Okay, scary good. Aiden Williams, beast. Aiden Williams is good, and I love Aiden Williams' attitude. This is a local kid. He's from Mississippi. He was the second best kid in Mississippi, according to the recruiting website, second best player out of Mississippi 2 years ago. And he's 6'3", and he's already been, I've read interviews from him. He's already said it. He's like, I don't care. I don't care if I'm on the bench. I'm at my dream school, and God will take care of me. And I know that if I just keep grinding and keep working, I'll eventually get in the starting lineup. I'll eventually get my reps and become a professional. I'll get my Trey Harris numbers. He said, all I ever did was go to Dayton Wade's house and watch film with him and just try to get better. I'm just learning tricks of the trade and the craft and whatnot. And I love players like that are focused, right? And not criminals and not doing things inappropriately. So I love Aiden Williams' mindset. And usually when you see a star, because he was the highest of 4-star players. He was the very high. He should have been a 5-star. But to see a guy like that not get any playing time, usually they jump in the transfer portal and usually they leave. That's not the case here. So this wide receiver room has some players that you can't even fathom. They have really good players sitting on the bench and they're not sweating a damn thing. It's impressive, man. It's impressive. And we'll talk about the rest of them. On the defensive side of the ball, leading tackler Trey Washington, coming back. He's back, and he's great. 3 interceptions, leads the team in tackles. He's everywhere. Look for Trey Washington to be a beast. John Saunders, man, shout out to John Saunders Jr. And this is a product of Miami of Ohio in the MAC. Miami of Ohio won the entire MAC last year, right? They were so amazing on the defensive side of the ball. Could you imagine if they had John Saunders still on their team with their amazing roster? They would have been amazing. But they still figured it out with the guys that they got. They did lose a couple of guys to the NFL and graduation, but when I go through the depth chart, you'll see how many guys they still have. I think Walton's gone. Zamari Walton was a transfer from Georgia Tech. They lost some guys. Shout out to Isaac Ukwu. But if you ever looked at a team, I've never seen a team this spread out with their sacks. Everybody's kind of got 3.5 sacks. All kinds of guys. That's a tribute to their depth, their rotation, and their scheme. It's just beautiful, man. The amount of guys they have just spreading out the pass rush. It's pretty good stuff. So let's go talk about the team in itself. You have Trey Harris, like I said, one of the very best wide receivers in America. Love everything about him. You bring in Beanie Wells, Antoine Wells. Beanie Wells was the leading receiver at South Carolina, second leading receiver. He was really the star wide receiver at South Carolina. Obviously, Xavier Leggett became the go-to guy, and he was the guy that, Spencer Rattler was throwing to. But Beanie Wells is that guy. Beanie Wells was the star player there. Everybody knows it, and it's good stuff. Jordan Watkins, like I said, a very good slot receiver. These 3, you're not messing with. You're not messing with these 3. Deion Smith comes in, great, add him to the room. That's all. That's fine. Aiden Williams, like I told you, these guys right here, they're the same year. I wish Aiden Williams would have redshirted. You played in 11 games with 4 receptions. Redshirt, bro. You don't need to play in all the games. Just redshirt. Caden Lee, same thing. He got a little more play, but a little more burn, but whatever. Then you come look over here. Norrell White, he's already been arrested. I'm not excited about that move. He's already been arrested. Zamari Bruce doesn't move the meter for me at all. I look at these transfers and I'm like, what are you doing? I don't know what that's about, but more power to you. That's fine. And then Devin Price coming back. So Devin Price, I say coming back, he was at A&M. Couldn't really play at A&M. Like he was in the rotation, but it's not like he was playing at A&M, you know what I mean? So he transferred to FAU and barely played anything at FAU. Yes, I think he's 6'3", 200 pounds or so. He's got great size theoretically, but everybody ahead of him up here, there's six wide receivers better than him. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about Ole Miss. They just bring in players that make their 85 better. They don't give a shit if you're going to get any playing time. Nope. They're not worried about these players' careers or their playing time. They're doing their job like the NFL. They're just trying to find the best 60, the best 85 they can get. They don't care. If you're not seeing the field, that's on you. That's not their fault, right? So you go look at their offensive linemen. They got Diego Pounds coming over from North Carolina. Sorry, I got this bug in my house, and it's killing me. I don't like bugs in my house, but it flew in when I had the door open. Oh, my goodness, it's bugging me. All right, so you have Diego Pounds, an offensive tackle, young stud out of North Carolina, was their starting tackle, transferring in to be this starting tackle here. Nate Calippo, starting at Washington last year, complete stud. I like everything about him. Caleb Warren, one of the local kids who turned out to be pretty damn good, a local Mississippi kid, and he's been starting for a while now. So that offensive line is loaded. Julius ended up starting at Washington last year as well. I think he had some injuries at some point, but he started for most of the season. Everybody's a stud. Micah Pettis, I got a problem with Micah Pettis. They keep trying to tell us this dude is amazing. They put him on every preseason, like he was a 5-star. They're like, he's on preseason rankings, preseason All-America team, preseason All-SEC team, and then the game's going, and he isn't that good. I understand he's 6'8", 340 pounds. Like, he's an enormous man. He might even be 360. I don't know. He's enormous. Biggest man on the team. And you constantly try to tell me he's an all-conference guy, and I just don't see the results. The one guy I do want to talk about is Jerquin Scott here. Jerquin Scott's played a lot of football, a ton of football at Southern Miss. For him to transfer for his final year to just be a backup is crazy. But remember, when he transferred in the winter. He thought he was going to be the starter. Then in the spring, or a couple weeks later, Washington loses their head coach to Alabama, and now all the Washington players are free and available. And Ole Miss does not care that they signed this kid and promised him some playing time or whatever. They don't care. They went ahead and signed Julius, and now Julius is the starter, and now Jerquin Scott's sitting around and probably just ruined his college career. He's done. He's not going to be able to play. He'll be a backup because he took a false promise from these programs who just don't give a shit, bro. They don't care about you. Caden Price-Corn coming back. And then they go out and get another tight end. This is Daquan Wright. He was the starting tight end at Virginia Tech. It's one of those safety blankets for Kyron Drones over at Virginia Tech. I love this move right here. This is good stuff. Good players. I already told you, we've got Walker Howard, Jackson Dart, Austin Simmons, and A.J. Maddox. So A.J. Maddox did play in the spring game. He's an early enrollee. And then Austin Simmons, talk about early enrollee. That's the kid who had reclassified twice, so he was 16 years old as like a freshman or some shit like that. And then he skipped his senior year to go to Ole Miss last year. I talked about it. I think it's terrible. His parent, that's whatever. And then you got your running backs. You've got a loaded running back room. Ulysses Bennett's back. Henry Parrish came back. He used to be an Ole Miss running back, was the leading rusher at Miami last year. So you got a 1-2 punch you can't mess with. And then your third running back is Rashad Amos. That's a 1,000-yard rusher, former South Carolina running back, went up to Miami of Ohio, did his thing. So now you have 3 quality running backs. There's even more, but these 3 are going to be the ones you see on the field. On the defensive line, they get Walter Nolan to come in and play nose tackle. This is a Texas A&M kid, former 5-star, when A&M had that great class of everybody you've ever seen, Big LT Overton and all them. Walter Nolan was the guy. He was the gem of the class. So to get him is pretty important. J.J. Pegas and Jared Ivey, starters from last year, coming back. Achilles Stone is a transfer from Georgia Tech 2 years ago. Never really moved me, but he's a rotational piece. Everybody else is kind of like whatever. They got this buck position, and they're telling me Princely Umanley's the guy. You guys know I hate this guy. I don't think he should ever be on any field anywhere. He once said my name, or my daughter's name. Once said my daughter's name, bro. I don't like the kid, so I have nothing positive to say about him. That being said, go to linebackers. Chris Paul Jr., complete stud. Chris Paul Jr. had a breakout season last year with Arkansas, and it's just a shame. Arkansas discovered, recruited, developed this player, and then he plays great, and then he goes to the highest bidder. So now he's over here doing his thing. TJ Dudley, baggage for days. This is the kid who got kicked off the team at Clemson. There's rumors as to why he got kicked off. I won't get into that. It's maybe sexual preference and some other things. We'll leave that alone. If you go and look, Terry Perkins is great. He's great. That's an NFL player right there. Trey Amos doesn't move me. I'm sure a lot of people were talking about him. I want to say he transferred from the Raging Cajun initially. Let me double check that. ULM or the Raging Cajun? Who was it? Oh, Louisiana, the Raging Cajun. And he transferred from the Raging Cajun to Alabama last year. Played good for Alabama in the nickelback position, but I just have never really been impressed with him. And I thought he was a last-minute signing by Alabama, and I didn't think he was any good. And I guess he's good. I watched the tape. I've never been impressed. So Ole Miss, you got him, and he's better than the guys you have on your team. Congratulations. Trey Washington, like I said, team's leading tackler coming back, complete stud. Key Lawrence, this feels like a terrible transfer for your final year. Key Lawrence transferring in. He used to be at Alabama his first year, then transferred to Tennessee, been playing at Tennessee for the last 3 years, and now he's at Ole Miss. I don't know. Just get more depth. You have John Saunders there, stud from Miami of Ohio, really proved his worth last year. Yam Banks just came in from South Alabama. Once again, coming in for your final year, they don't care if you're going to play. They don't care. Ole Miss's job is to find their best players, and they're doing that. The players themselves, I don't think they care that they're going to play. They're just getting the only check they're ever going to get from football. That's what they're doing, because I don't think they're NFL guys. Isaiah Hamilton, he's special. Isaiah Hamilton is absolutely special. This is a kid. He's actually going to be my hidden gem when I make the video on Ole Miss for hidden gems. Isaiah Hamilton started his career at Texas Southern in the FCS. Had about 4 or 5 interceptions. I think he had 5. Transferred last year to Houston. Started at Houston, had 4 interceptions. He's a ball hawk. He just finds the way to the ball, does everything great. I love it. I love it, man. Isaiah Hamilton showed up, and he's a stud. And check that out. Pushes Chris Graves, who I have told you guys, I've been on record telling you he's a criminal. I know he's a criminal. I know he robs drug dealers and sells drugs. I know this. I've talked to the victims. I've talked to customers. I've already reported to the police. Yeah, I went full snitch mode. I think that's a criminal, and he shouldn't be in college football. I'm letting you guys know that right now. Oh, look at this. Nickelback, I'm really, it hurts, man. It hurts for me to see a guy like Jaden Kennedy here. You see Jaden Kennedy? You guys don't know who this is, and I'm going to tell you who he is. I think he was the American Conference Newcomer of the Year his freshman year. His freshman year at Tulane. He was great. And then he tore his ACL. So then he's recovering. He jumps in the transfer portal, and Ole Miss offers him. And he can't turn it down. Oh my God, I'm going to go play at Ole Miss. I'm going to Ole Miss. And that's great, man. They sign you. And then this offseason, you think, okay, I'm going to get 100%. I'm going to recover. And this is a friend of the channel. I want you to know this. I've talked to Jaden I've talked to him in DMs. He's actually the reason I created the Up Next playlist. If you go to TikTok and you search through all my playlists at the very top above the videos, if you search through all the videos, you will find the Up Next playlist. And he was the very first video I ever put in the Up Next playlist. And after reaching out to the channel. It's a friend of the channel, man. And it pains me because I don't think he'll ever see the field again. The way they recruit, the players they bring in, they just go grab somebody. So there's Brandon Turnage. He hasn't played much. I want to say he was at Alabama at one point and Tennessee as well. Hasn't played much, but he's uber athletic. Super athletic. So much so that he won the dunk contest. I think he beat Trey Harris in the dunk contest at the spring game. Yeah. By the way, Joey Chestnut showed up to their spring game. Mr. I'm banned and I can't compete in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Yeah, Joey Chestnut was at he joined their hot dog eating contest late. He joined it with like a minute 30 left and won the whole thing, just so you know. But yeah, Brandon Turnage, super athlete. So here's what I want to tell you guys. When I look at this team, offensively, I see zero issues on this team. Tight end, offensive line, wide receiver room, running backs, quarterback, zero weak points on this offensive team. Defensively, I see zero weak points. You might have an issue with the secondary. I'm telling you, it's been revamped. I see zero weak points. I actually think this is a phenomenal team. I think they're poised to have a really good season. So when I go look at 2024, they're beating Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern. Let's leave the ranked teams out for a second, but I think they're beating Kentucky. Okay, Kentucky has a new quarterback. I love everything about him, Brock Vandagriff, but I think they're beating Kentucky, and they're beating South Carolina. So watch this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Leave LSU out. Leave Oklahoma out. Leave Georgia out. Leave them all out. They're at 6 wins right now. 7 over Arkansas, 8 over Florida, and then 9 over Mississippi State. So I have them at 9 wins, and that's not counting the games against LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia. Now, they got blown out by Georgia last year. I don't think they've bridged that gap. I don't know. I don't know how you bridge that gap. I don't know if it's coaching, scheme, what, but it doesn't look like they match up well with Georgia for whatever reason. Now, they have the game at home, right? They have a nothing burger game before it when it comes to Arkansas. Okay, trap game. Same thing with LSU, trap game, because they have South Carolina before. But they have 2 weeks to prepare for Oklahoma. 2 weeks to prepare for Jackson Arnold and Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a sensational receiver corps. So does LSU. So does Georgia. I want to tell you guys, all they have to do is win one of those 3 games to hit the over. They got to win every game they're supposed to win, which I think they will. And they just have to win one of these games against LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia to hit the over. Guys, they got to only win 1 out of those 3. I think it's going to happen. So, if we go to the chart, apologies, I had it on the other screen. If you go to the chart, you see it right there. Ole Miss, I have them on the over in the regular season. I have them winning at least 10 games. And I'm willing to say it's a 3-unit lock. I think it's a pretty big lock. I think it's a pretty big deal. I thought these were actually pretty decent odds. So at least put a unit on it. Don't let this pass. Before the season starts, I'm predicting Ole Miss is going to have a really good team this year. And I can see them being a playoff contender. I can see them, out of those 3 difficult games, they only have to win 1 for this bet to hit. They're going to win everything else. That's how I feel. Think about it. Go put your money where your mouth is. But we're going to be doing this whole chart at the end of the year. And we're going to have locks, leans, and value bets. Just like we do with the UFC. For those of you who aren't familiar, my locks are at 80%. My leans are at 60%. My value bets are at 40%. Because those are hard to call. That's when you're an underdog. So when you go back to the chart and you're looking at the futures, please understand, I anticipate the greens hitting at 80%. The leans, 60%. And those purples, we're taking a shot in the dark on some of these purples, and we're probably going to be around 40%, which is great. You win money if you're at 40%, because every single purple is positive money. You're getting more than the money you put in. So if you get it right, only 40% of the time, you actually clear more. I'm telling you. Now, these aren't like plus 500s and plus 600s, but we'll be fine. Even if we're at 50%, we'll be fine. So, just something to think about. Get the chart, screenshot it, sit down, look at the unit amounts, look at the teams, look over the schedule, and if you come to the same conclusion I do, then put your money where it is, right? Don't blind tail the whole chart. Go down, do your research. If you see red, that means I changed my mind after the video. Initially, I said Clemson was an under. I now think they're an over. Things like that. I might change my mind. I wanted to change my mind on Florida State because I love a lot of things about Florida State. And then I went back and looked and said, no, I can't do it. I'm going to leave it like that for 1 unit. It's just a lean anyways. All right. Good luck, MVPs. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Peace.